started one of the first Mishnah, Nozir, Kol Kinuya, Naziris, Kenaziris, Ha'oime, Aho, Hareze, Nozir. So the Mishnah says, if somebody says Aho, which is sort of an Aramaic word for Ehya, I will be, so he becomes a Nozir. And the Gemara says on this, Ha'oime, Hareze, Nozir, Frag the Gemara, Dilma, Hei Betainis Koma. Who says he means a Nazir? Well, I'll be. It's not so clear as why the Gemara picks out tinus out of everything in the world. Apparently, Aha means I'm going to do something, and doing something with my whole goof. There are two possibilities: either tinus or the Nazir. So the Gemara, Amar Shmuel, ki goin shoya Nazir over lefonav. A Nazir passes by, and he says Aha. And so that's a raya that he wants to become a Nazir. There are choices that he can become a Nazir or a Tainus, and a Nazir is passing by. From the context of what he sees and what he says, we assume that he wants to be a Nazir. So the Gemara says, the different gears is here. The Gemara says it has a din of a Yad Naziris, that we finish off a sentence. That's what the yad means. So he says yeah, and the Nazir is over lefonav, so then he becomes a Nazir. Frag the Gemara, v'dilma lefoitroi min karbanoisav kama. Maybe he doesn't mean I want to be like him. He means he's a Nazir, and I want to donate his karbanis. I want to pater him from his karbanis. I'll pay for his karbanis. So the Gemara, dikama beliboy. He said in his heart. So what does it mean to become a believer? He said in his heart he wants to be a Nazir. So Mele is telling us I want to be a Nazir. He said Aha, Nazir Ever Lefana. We take out the possibility of Lefoitre Mikarbanoisa because he said he wants to be a Nazir. So Mele becomes a Nazir. Frag the Gemari, Hachi Maila Memra. So what's the Chiddush? Is Nazir Ever Lefana. He said Aha, become a believer. And for the Gemara, Mao de Tema Binat Pivali Baishav in Komash Malon. That we would have thought that he didn't say it, so he thought it, but he didn't say it. So Mimela, since he only said, oh, that's not good enough. Kamash Malon, even though the peh and the lave don't really go together, Kamash Malon, that it goes together. Zok says, there was another girsa that you don't need pivali by shavin. Davi mashma deloy bina pivali by shavin. V'ze'enoi, the kol neder bitos lav nederhu. If the pshat is that you don't need pivali by shavin, so it can't be. If my lave says one thing and my peh said another thing, which means it doesn't really mean nazir, but I said belibi, so my lave and my peh don't go together. Kamash malon, even though my peh and my lave don't correlate with each other, it is a nazir ken zayin, because it's an eder betos. So if means tainus, it doesn't mean nazir, and he says I meant nazir. It can't work if the gears in the Gemara is kamashwan. You don't need pivali by shavin. Va'oid kasher lamali over lefanav. Havi nazir came in the kasher believable. Being a pivali by shavin. If we're saying the peh means one thing and the lay means another thing, but I don't care if they don't line up. So who cares if nazir over lefanav? He said one thing, but he meant another thing. But that's good enough. Lay being a pivali by shavin. So why do I need nazir over lefanav? Alochi perusho. Mao de teva bin people shavin. Vahocha kiloi hoitzi befi vehe nazir beferish. Afagav de nazir belefonov. Vaomar beliboy nazir deinze pivali by shavin. Which is, we would have thought that it's not pivali by shavin because ehye doesn't mean nazir. Kamash malon de machsheva salei megal yad diburay to haki oz nazir belefonov. We would have thought that it doesn't line up. Kamash malon it does. Because aha with the nazir of means nazir. So when the Gemara says mao de tema bin pivali by shavin, kamash malon, it's not the pshat kamash. You don't need pivali by shavin. That even though aha does not mean nazir, still he's a nazir because his leif said it. Because that doesn't make sense like Taisus. Elamai, it has to be kamash malon, that when you say a sentence and we look at the context, if somebody's standing in front of a supermarket and says I'm going, It means he's going into the supermarket. So if a Nazir is over Lefonav and his lave says, I wanted to be a Nazir, Kamash Mulan, that's what the peh also means. Not that the peh doesn't mean that, the peh means that, and that's how it became Pivali Boshav. That's what Tais learned the Gemara. Now, Sedor Amoyre de Rambam. The Rambam, Perik Aleph, Aloche Hey, of Ilch Nizir says, Ein oimrim b'neziris at sheyoitzi b'sfos of dover shemashmoi eitzel kolom ki'inin shebaliboy. By Nazir, we don't say that when you say Naziris, it has to be a dover shemashmoi eitzel kolom ki'inin shebaliboy. Ein oimrim b'neziris at sheyoitzi b'sfos of dover shemashmoi eitzel kolom ki'inin shebaliboy. So if I say a table, I mean table, and everyone understands what I'm saying. By Nazir, even if I say one thing, and it's not totally understood, you can still be a Nazir. Elakevan shegomar beliboy v'hoitzi b'sfos of dvarim she'inyonom she'yeh Nazir afal pi she'inyonos rechoikois. It's far-fetched that that's really what he meant. V'afal pi she'ein b'mashmon loshen naziris. It's not mashma in the words. If you'd ask a regular person, what does he mean? It's not mashma Nazir. Harez Nazir. There seems to be some new din by Nazir, that even though the words I say didn't completely communicate that I want to be a Nazir, but still you're a Nazir. Ketzad, Harei Nazir Lefonav, V'ama Ehye, Harei Nazir. Hoylu Beliboy Hoya Shiyeh K'moizeh. Va'afal Pi Shaloi Pirish from Ehye K'moizeh. Since he wanted to be like him, even though he didn't say it, he's still a Nazir. So the Rambam says a new cloud. By Nazir, the words and the peh doesn't have to be that it means Nazir. Even if it's mashmos rechoikas, you're still a Nazir. And all the Mefarshim asked, where does this come from? What's this halacha? So if you look in the Pirush HaMishnayos, you'll see where it comes from. The Rambam says, Ve'elehin yodois ha'oimer aho pirish eye va'kavona shu oimer eye nozir u'bitnai she'ye nozir eve lefonav v'hu she'yoimer gam ken shelozeh adover niskaven v'omna mashmienu she'ein onu tzrichin b'neziris ad she'ye piv v'libo yishovin elo achar shehu b'libo afal pi she'ein piv moire al zois ha'kavona. If he says, I want to be a Nazir, even though in his mouth it doesn't seem like that's what he said, it's not completely Yodua, Hareyu mechuya b'neziris, u'k'moichin k'shom eye novet, she'perush eye no, I'll be beautiful. If he's oiches b'sayro, even though eye no doesn't mean Nazir, but if he's holding on to a seer and he says, I meant to be a Nazir, you become a Nazir.
It's not Gemura. What? He says that it's not Gemura. It's
not a Hoira Gemura.
Not a Hoira Gemura, but it's
you need some of the mashmos. He says, Ein mashmos, it's a kolam. The Leon Mizrachi explained there has to be a little bit mashmos. If the Yerushalmi says, the Yerushalmi says that if somebody makes up before, he says, when I say the word pas, I become a Nazir. So he's a Nazir. As they state in the Yerushalmi. But the Rambam is not saying that. It has to be something that there's some Hoira Asaloshim. It could be interpreted that way. Hagam, that it's far-fetched. It's minyonis rechoikas, says the Rambam. But it could be interpreted like that. You're a Nazir. And the Chayra, the Bir Adover is, the Rambam had the other gears, so the Toys says is wrong. The Rambam had the gears of Mao the Teima, the Binin Pibali B'Shavin, Kamash Malon Deloy. That's what the Rambam says in Pirush HaMishnayos. He says, she'ein onu tzrichin b'neziris ad she'piv v'libo yishovin ela achar shu b'libo afa b'shein piv moira zois ha'kavon ha'roa gmura harei mechuya b'neziris. So the Rambam was goyres kamash molon deloy b'ina. There's no din of piv v'libo yishovin. Now, the Toysus asks a kasha, if there's no din of piv v'libo yishovin, so he said aleph and he meant beis. The Toysus says it's like an eder b'tos. T'miskavler e'maisu e'metruma yivcha lo yamaklum. So if he says aho, if it doesn't mean Nazir, so what if he thought he wants to be a Nazir, but he didn't say it? So that doesn't shtim. It's like trying to say Meiser and meaning Truma. So the Rambam has an answer to this kasha. Taisa doesn't agree with this din, but the Rambam says there's a new din by Naziris, that by Naziris, if there's somewhat of a mashmos, that's good enough. Those words are enough to make you into Nazir. Ein oimrim b'neziris ad shiyoitzi b'sfosav dover shemashmoi eitzel kol ha'amkinin shebeliboy. By Nazir, you don't need piva liba shavim. Ela kaven shegama beliboy v'hoitzi b'sfosav dvarim shinyonim she'nazir afal pi she'ninyonim zrichoikis v'afal pi she'ein b'mashma losh nazir says the Nazir. So the Rambam learns it's not like Meiser and Truma. Meiser and Truma, you need piva liba shavim. Here, there's a new din, you don't need piva liba shavim. What the Makar is, I don't know. But the Rambam had a thought that from this Gemara, that's what it says. And that's how he explains, because he was gurus like that, Kamashma and Deloy Bina, and he was bothered by Tosis Kasha. Tosis says that it should be like this Kavan Meiser Matruma. It's Mimela, Toisvis says you can't be gurus like that. The Rambam learned that's a new din by Nazir, that if it's a mashmos rechoikis, it's good enough. Now, Toisif reg noch hakashe, v'oid kosher lomeli oiva lefonav, ha'avi Nazir came in the kosher beliboy, v'labina piva liboy shavin. Toisif says, what do you know oiva lefonav? If you don't need piva liboy shavin, so then piv says anything, could say pas, and it's, as long as liboy, it's good enough. That's what Toisif understood. The Rambam modified this. The Rambam learning about it, if you say pas is nothing. It has to be afal pish hoitzu sasas varim shinyonim shenos ab shinyonim rechoikis. You don't need piv liba shavin. It means you don't need the regular interpretation of what piv would be. We can stretch our imagination and we can interpret the piv even if it's far-fetched. It's in yonos rechoikis. So when it says kabashmo and deloy beina, it means we don't need the regular dinim of piv liba shavin. But avad, at the end of the day, it has to be a mashmos of naziris. It's Mimela, that's where the Rambam got it, because he was also bothered by Tosis Kasha. And here it says, Kamashulon de loy beina, and the Rambam didn't understand. What do you mean, loy beina? So what do you know Zohar B'Lefonov? So that's what the Rambam is explaining, that you, l'chol ha'poches need in yonos rechoikos. And Mimela, that's what the Rambam answered the second Kasha of Tosis. So we have here really understanding the first blot, Omid, of Naziris, but more than that, a Yesoid Godel, which goes for the whole first parak of Nazir, is to understand that by Naziris there's a different din dibur than in all Nidarim. All Nidarim has to be piva liboy shavin according to the Rambam, and by Nazir not. Tosis doesn't all like that. Tosis is the exact same din, and Nazir Evelefonov means it's not rechoikis, that's understood, and it works and fits with the dinim of Kol HaTorah.
Mashmo is rechoikis, but not mashmo is stiros. We're not saying that his Leiv is a soiser, his piv, so piv v'liboy shavin. Why does the Rambam have such a hard time? All he's doing is being mefarish what his piv is. Why should that be a problem of piv v'liboy is not shavin? They are. Piv v'liboy is not shavin. If I'm going to tell you, in my mind, dvarim shabalev lo have.
Right, but normally we don't say that. In Kiddushin or in Nedarim, we wouldn't say that. Nedarim would say your pet and say it. You can stretch your imagination and fit it into the word, but that's not what you said. That's not what you said. You said something vague. You didn't say you wanted this nether. Right. That's what I'm going to say. By Naziris, we take out the vagueness and we say that's what you meant. That's the Chiddush.
The Leiv can help the past.
What?
The Leiv can help.
Correct. But it's only if it's possible to interpret. But in Kol HaTorah Kula, we view it like it's not Pivali B'Shav because the pet didn't say it. The pet said something vague. Pet didn't say that. Now, by Naziris, we allow you to interpret it, and then Mimeli Makabel Naziris.
Even if the Leiv is not sois to the pit, we won't ask him what is.
No, you didn't say it. We'll only help with things. Right, so that the Rashban Kiddushin, the Bavusta Rashban is not soiser, but that's because there the Leiv is good enough. But by Naziris, you need the pet too, so it's not going to give you the pet. The Chiddush in Naziris is that it gives you the pet.
Here it says Tiafni, which is a big Chiddush.
Correct. I don't know where the limud is. Asking Akasha Kiyafli, the Bezunder Redinim, Ichleina Rambam, this is what the Rambam says, that by Nozir is different. You want to know the Ashkaf of it is because by Naziris the ganze Zach is the Leiv. Without the Leiv was Bistan Nozir. The whole Naziris is that but that's just Ashkafa. But in Din, that's what it says in the Rambam. You're right that Tosis obviously was bothered by other people.
According to Tosis, you wouldn't need a pasuk. The Rambam would need a pasuk.
He needs a pasuk. Obviously, he has something.
Tiafli just that you can't think of the Nozir.
No, but Yafli, it says by Nedarim also.
Anything. No, that cannot know. So you have to be Tiafli.
No, you have Gemara that Tarfnesi Meforish by Naziris. If you don't know, you don't become a Nozir. I don't know what the Makar is. The Makar is the Rambam. Move on to a different Ha'ara, which is neged to other things also. There's a Gemara here on Gimel Amid Beis. And the Gemara says, Miyayin v'sheicha yazir is leso yayin mitzvah ki yayin rishus. So, if a Nazir becomes a Nazir, it answers yayin mitzvah like yayin rishus. Frag the Gemara, Mahi, what is it? Kiddusha v'avdalta? Harimush b'voim et olam er Sinai. So if it means Kiddush and Avdallah, Rashi learns this Gemara, so it's mutter. A Nazir could drink wine by Kiddush, he can come to Kiddush and drink wine. Why? Because it's mush b'voim, it's mechuyev to drink wine by Kiddush. And Mimela, it's not chal. It's not chal on the shvuah that he's mushba ready to drink wine, so the Nizir is not chal.
He can be yayt to someone else's kiddush.
He can be yayt with challah.
No, I'm saying he doesn't have to even...
Right. So we will make a simple ukimta without getting into problems. There's nobody else there, and he only has wine and not pas. He's the only one there, only wine and pas, and he can drink it. He's mushboy. If not, so he's not mushboy marsinai. To be mushboy marsinai, he has to be able to drink it. So he makes a shvur that he's going to drink. So not Moshe Marasina. He created the chi of shvur she'eshte, and then v'chad ha'ini nazir asi nazir is chayil al shvur. So the Gemara says the Torah in a different case where he created it. There's no chi from Sinai. Comes along Toisves, and Toisves asks on Rashi, v'koshe te'adra b'loch yitzir kam yisuloim edechayil olei naziris. What do you mean mush b'voim Marasina? You're mechuyev to drink from Kiddush, but now that you answered it, so now it's asur. You were mechuyev to drink from Kiddush until you made the neder and Naziris. Now that you made the neder for Naziris, now bist mechuyev to follow the neder and Naziris. And that goof is the pasuk, leso yain mitzvah yain rishus, to tell you that even though you're mechuyev to drink from Kiddush, but if you're a Nazir, you don't drink.
Doesn't Taisus learn because it's betmiyah?
We're holding out by Tosis Kasha. You're holding by Tosis Teretz. I didn't get to the Teretz yet. Tosis Kasha is, how could Rashi say you're allowed to drink from Kiddush? That goof is what the pasuk tells me. V'oid Kasha, my mishani basar nishba lishta is v'chazer nada benazir. Ta'asir nazir v'chayla shua tiksha arimush v'voyin ma'asinai. So what's the difference if the Torah told him, or the Torah said you have to listen to your shvuah? Now that he made a shvuah, so he's also mush v'voyin ma'asinai. Ba'oid kasha di kiddush yom lav derai. So he says kiddush ala yayin is only an asmachta. Lo chenir l'rabinatam di garsina bitmi. It's a kasha. V'chimush b'voyin ma'asinai. What is mechuyev to drink wine from kiddush? That's only an asmachta. So mimela, it can't be going on that. So I'm going to bring this in. The gal also for you saw this in Nazir. Comes along the Shagas Aryeh. The Shagas Aryeh says he wants to answer Toisus Kasha on Rashi. Toisus asks, what's Rashi saying that you mechuyev to drink mushva voimid mar Sinai? That's what the goof of the Torah is answering. So the Shagas Aryeh, the Babus to Shaila, if Naziris is an Isser Gaver and Isser Hefzer, which means the Gemara Zog that Nedarim is an Isser Hefzer. The Hefzer is also Shavuos is an Isser Gaver. Everyone knows the famous Gemara Nedarim that Beis Amid Beis. What's Nazir? Nazir is a unique type of a Naziris. We have Nidrei Isser and Nidrei Hektish. The Rambam says a Naziris Michlal Nidrei Isser. The Nidrei Isser. But what happens here? A Nazir is also biyayin, he's also litami, he's also b'tiglachas, and he brings karbonis. What is it? Is the yayin also on him, or is he also on the yayin? So this Emerson is a shail in Rishonim, and there's a stira in Ridvos, Ridvo and Shavuos. On Tav Chobeis, Nire Mediv Rabbeinu Zal, the Nazir is Chiyuv Gavru. Medayik from Rashi says Nazir is an Issa Gavru. The Ritva and Nidarim in a few places says that Nazirus is an Issa Chefza. The end of the second parak. So the Gemara says, "Yesh neder b'toich neder vein shvu b'toich shvua." If you say, "Keitzad Amareini Nozim Oichal Nozim Oichal V'Ochal Chai V'Kol Achas V'Achas," you can make a double Nazirus, but you can't make a double Shvua. Says the Ritva that a Nazirus is Chal and Nazirus. It's from a pasuk, Nozir Lahazir. Frag the Ritva, V'Afal Gab the Nazirus is a Chefzu K'nidei Da'alma U'Laficha Chol Al Dvar Mitzvah. V'ala Shvua K'disu Masechas Nozir L'Gamrinon Minol Indorin Da'alma Davinami Yisachef. So he wants to say this din of Yesh Neder B'Toich Neder is only by Nazirus, not by Nedarim. Says even though Nazirus is on the Chefts and so is Nedarim, L'Gamrinon Minol, it's a pasuk Nozir Lahazir. So he says it clear the Nazirus is in his Chefts, and he says it also at the end of the first parak that the Ritva is clear that Nazirus is in his Chefts. It's a steer in the Ritva. Is Bavus, the Marit, in Chelak Aleph, Siman and Dalet. The Marit declares, even if it's an Issa Gavri, he says you can learn it in two ways. You can learn it in Issa Gavri, just like Chazir or other Isuri Torah that are Isuri Gavri. He asked it on himself, or like a Shvua is an Issa Gavri. He says another step. He says a Nozir, he says it like a Kohen. It's not the pshat that the word, when I say that I'm becoming a Nazir, not that these words aser the yayin or aser the tiglachas. The words were mekadesh yukikoyin, the words made you into a gavra called a Nazir. And a Nazir has dinim. The Nazir is not allowed to drink wine, he's not allowed to eat grapes, he's not allowed to be mitame, but it's not like a neder. A neder is kachol hayotzim mipiv. I say these words, and the dibur answered me. Here, the dibur makes me into a nazir, and then a nazir has halachis, but it's not direct that it's an issa gavra like a shvua. Shvua is a tzveita zach. A shvua, I said the words, and now I have to keep my dibur. The gavra has to keep the dibur. By a neder, I answer the chefetz, and now the chefetz becomes asur on me. By a shvu, by nazir, says the Marit, I mekadesh myself, I become a gavra v'nazir. Mimela, now I'm not allowed to do these halachas. I state to the Marit. But Al Koponim, now let's get back to the Shagasari. Comes along the Shagasari, and he says, if Nazirus is an Issa Gavra, so then the Kasha and Rashi falls off. Why? We know that a neder can be chal on a mitzvah and not a shvuah. The Gemara says, in the second Mishnah, in the second parak of Nedarim, that if somebody asks a sukkah on himself, so the sukkah becomes aser. You're mechuyev to sit in the sukkah. But if you aser all sukkahs on yourself, so ein machin lo adam davar aser lo. It's like you don't have a sukkah. It's a chefza di yisur. So the neder is chal, because the neder is not directly contradicting the mitzvah. The neder is aser the chayfetz. Now once the chayfetz is aser, chad mishkan sukkah. Why? Because it's aser. So now I won't be mekayim the mitzvah sukkah. It's aser. So mimela it's chal. Mashenkin the shvu is not chal levatel some mitzvahs, because the shvu is on the gavra, the mitzvah is on the gavra. So there's a direct conflict between the shvu and the mitzvah. So mimela, once the shvu is already nishba v'oimed, you're mushba v'oimed, you can't now change the Torah. You can only aser the chafotzim, and mimela by default it's aser. But to go directly against the Torah, you can't go. That's over here. Gemara and וחיים דם ישוס, כי אמה קוינם סוכה שאני יוי סלולו, שאני לא יותר תפולן, שאני מניח, בן דורים, עושה בישוס מותר, שאין לשבורים לעבר על המצווס. So the Gemara asks, מה ישנו נדר, דקסיב איש כי ידע נדר להשם לא יחל דבורי, שהוא אינם יקסיב וישוב שהוא להשם לא יחל דבורי. So what's the chilik? So the Gemara explains that this is the chilik. So even though it says La Hashem, but I don't darshan the drosha by shvua that I can go against the shvua because there's a steer between my shvua and the Torah. So then La Hashem is the Gemara darshan to something else. But by a neder, so then the neder is not going against the Torah, so therefore it can be chal. The Mela says the Shagas Aryeh Gishmak. Tois's kasha is that now the Naziris should be chal on the yayin, and Mimela is not allowed to drink for Kiddush. Why does Rashi say that once I'm mechuyev to drink the wine of Kiddush, so now Naziris cannot come and knock it out? Let the pasuk say that since there's a pasuk lesa yayin mitzvah yayin arshus, so now I'm not allowed to drink the wine of Kiddush. Says the Shagas Aryeh, that's only if Naziris is an Issa Chefza, you can ask such a kasha. Because then the kasha is, I'm chayiv, the Gavra is chayiv to drink Kiddush. The Nazir asks the wine, the Chefza, so I don't have wine, because the wine is also a chabish ken wine. When a chabish ken wine, so then Mimela, ich tonish drinking. But if the Naziris is going on the Gavra, so now it's going directly against the Torah. It's going directly against the Torah. So Mimela, then it's just like Shavuos. We see that we don't darshan droshes to go against the Torah. If you're mushba v'oimed, the gavra, and there's a stira, then we don't darshan it. Only if we can answer the chefta, so then Mimela, the chefta is also. So now you're not allowed to drink the wine. Is a Mela zog to Shagas Aryeh, Toisvis muz halten that it's a din in the chefta. But according to Rashi holds it, Nozir is a din of the Gavra, so in Mela, Toisus Kasha falls apart. According to Rashi, that goof, that's what it says. In Mushba, when Marcina, Mela, there can't be a drasha going against it. Now, it could be, though, that if you go like the Marit, even if it's an Issa Gavra, maybe it could be. Because there, it's not a direct steer between your neder and the Torah. Your neder is to become a Nazir. Now the Nazir has dinim, so it could be that also could go against the Torah. It's similar to if you're going on the Chefza. Because there the Gavra is the Chefza, right? The Gavra becomes the Chefza. If you're going like the Marit, it could be that also Toisus could ask the Kasha. So it's not Muchach that Toisus holds the din in the Chefza. Toisus could hold like the Marit. And then I made myself a Nazir. Now the Nazir has dinim, so a Mela, that could go against it, because not a direct clash with the Torah. But the Shagas Aryeh is saying Rashi holds the din of the Gavra. It Mela, therefore, the din is that it can't be going against, and that's the Toisus Kasha. Now on this Toisus, now that we spoke about a lot of Yoni Naziris, we'll go to Abyssal for the next few minutes to a side topic of whether Kiddush Hayoim, making Kiddush on wine, is a deraisa. So Tosfos here holds that it's not, it's bitmiya, and you don't have to make Kiddush al yayin deraisa. Rashi holds that Kiddush is deraisa, but in Rashi steht noch a Kiddush, a gewaltige Kiddush. You could say that Kiddush al yayin is deraisa, but HaMekadosh tzorch sheyitoim is a drabonot, which means I have to make Kiddush al yayin, but I don't have to drink it. Why do you drink Kiddush? You drink Kiddush because I'm a Kaddish tzorch sheyitoim, I'm a Varach tzorch sheyitoim. But to say that that's the Raisa, that's an extra Chiddush. So there is such a sheet in Toisus and Shavuos, Daf Yud Tes Sameh. Toisus handles the Sugya. It's from the base. It's from the base. Inami afilu hudroshe gemure hodim mevorich tzorch sheyitoim hainu midrabon. The teim is the rabbanot. So in Rashi it's saying a double chiddush. Aleph, that making kiddush al yayin is deraisa. Beis, that the teim is a deraisa. Now the emes is, you have to also cheshbon it a little bit, because by a Nazir the Shiur, the Shaylas of the Kazayas or Revius, how much do you have to drink midaraisa? If you hold the Mashal Chatzi Shiur is mutar min hatoira like Nishlokish, you can maybe cheshbenois that you're drinking a malay lugma. It depends what the Shiur is. Maybe it wouldn't be a problem. But al kopanim, it's mevur here in the Rishonim that it would be a problem. So the one who handles this azoi gishmak is the Toisus Rid in Psachim and Daf Kuvav. Toisus Rid in Psachim and Daf Kuvav says that what's mevur in Rashi is that Kiddush, drinking Kiddush is deraisa. But there's a big problem. It's a big problem. We know that you can make Kiddush and Pas. Now, it's interesting that Rabbeinu Tam in Toisim Psachim holds you can't make Kiddush and Pas. In Toisim Psachim, Kufei, Kuvav, holds you can't make Kiddush and Pas. And Rabbeinu Tam is the one who says that Kiddush al Yayin is the Rabbanon. So Rabbeinu Tam would have said you could make Kiddush al Pas. So then it would fit into his shita. That's why he says it can't be that Kiddush is deraisa, because you can make Kiddush on Pas. So why does Rashi say that you mushma in Marsina, you can make Kiddush al Pas? But Rabbeinu Tam is the one who says you can't make Kiddush al Pas. All the other Rishonim say you could make Kiddush al Pas. But al kopanim, the kasha, the Toisus Rid asks, he says if you can make Kiddush on Pas, so what's shot in Rashi? If you're not mushma in Marsina to drink wine, you could eat Pas. So basically he says that you have to be kivea the Kiddush on a Suda. We know the Rav Kivega brings the Rosh old Kiddush b'mokum Suda is deraisa. Even though it's learned out from Pasuk and Divrei Kabbalah, v'korasa l'Shabbos oinek b'mokum kriya sham te oinek, but it's a din deraisa. It says Kiddush is to be kivea the Suda Shabbos on the Kiddush, and you could be kivea either on wine or on Pas, one of the two. And then l'chora, you have to say what the din over here is that it's going whether it doesn't happen. If he has pas, if he has pas, so then he has an eitz out of it. He says gradadir that whatever's chaviv to you that you have to. The Gemara says that if he washes netilas yadayim, he shows that it's chaviv, then he's mechuyev. Be a big chiddush to say that whatever's chaviv becomes a chiyuv deraisa, but al kopanim, and you have to zetzayin l'chora pashtus that is talking in such a case. And he brings a moiradik araya, peladik araya, that it has to be that Kiddush is attached to Achila. He says, how come Yom Kippur Shechol is b'Shabbos, how come we don't make Kiddush? So Rab Kiva Eget has a long arichas about it, that maybe during davening on Yom Kippur, you should be mechuyev to having zinin to be yoytze Kiddush. Because Shabbos, so Kiddush Mokum toilet, if Kiddush Mokum Suda Deraisa the Rabbanon, Kiddush Mokum Suda Deraisa, so you can't have a Suda anyways. You're not Yotze Kiddush. Kiddush Mokum Suda the Rabbanon, so Mimeli Namachoyev in Suda. So then the Gemara says we make Kiddush B'Tefillah, we make Kiddush Alakois. Alakois and Yom Kippur you can't make. So Mimeli you'd be Mechoyev to make Kiddush B'Tefillah. So you have to have in Zinin when you daven to be Yoytze Kiddush. Now the emes is, the way it's mavur there in the Gemara, that there's Kiddush b'Tefillah and there's Kiddush alakois, every Friday night you should also have in Zinin to be Yoytze Kiddush. Because to be Yoytze Kiddush b'Tefillah, as a matter of fact, there is a minig. My shviga had a minig. Has a minig. What?
Harvest problem.
The what?
Every Friday to your wife.
Your yaitz to the wife's not.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a minig that ladies daven Ma'ariv Friday night, and not during the week. During the week, we know it's Arvis is Rishus, and the Noshim were not knowing to daven, so they don't daven. Friday night, they would daven. So you could say, like you were saying, why? Because they were afraid that the husband was Yoitze Midaraisa, and they weren't Yoitze Midaraisa, and then there's no Arvis, so Mimela, in order to balance the sheets, they daven. But I found in the Moruk Tzia, I think, they bring Shitas, that the Pshat is it's al Kiddush B'Tefillah. Noshim HaChayiv in Kiddush HaYoim. So there's a Kiddush Chiyav B'Tefillah, so then Mimela, they're Mechuyiv to daven al Din Kiddush B'Tefillah. They're not davening al Tzma'iriv. the davening als the din kiddush b'tfilah, so that they would be mechuyev. The only kasha had on this was that then they should have to daven Motzei Shabbos also, because the Gemara says that you mechuyev in Avdallah also b'tfilah and also ala kois. And Noshim we have a machlokes if they chayiv in Havdalah or not. So you could say that Lagabi Havdalah they were going like the Shittis that they don't make Havdalah, and so Mimela they don't daven. But if Noshim are chayiv in Havdalah, so then should come out that Noshim should daven Motzei Shabbos also. But Al Kuponim Sedo Adin from Kiddush B'Tfilah. So the Tosas Rid says that we don't make Kiddush. We don't make Kiddush. He goes back and forth. Maybe we yoytu Kiddush B'Tfilah. But he said, L'maisa, there is no Kiddush, there's no Takonas Kiddush. Why weren't Chazal Mesakin to make Kiddush on Yom Kippur? That without a kois. And Lamai says the pshat is because if you go like Rashi, it's miyushav. Rashi holds that the chiyuv of kiddush is all klapi yasuda. You have to be kaveh yasuda either with a kois or with pas. It mimela zok Rashi that you mush b'voimid mamish to drink from the kiddush. So if you can't drink and it's also to drink, so mimela then there's no kiddush.
How mean about second when you make a lot of kois? Tomorrow in Erev says.
No, that's a shayla of a cotton to drink. The cotton.
No, but the Gemara had a happy. You should make on a kois on a regular.
And then a cotton should drink.
Yes, you see that there is a musik of a kois.
That's zman. That's shechiyonu, not kiddush. That's shechiyonu.
So what would be by a man? The harvest wouldn't be reshus on Friday night. Could have a din that the harvest becomes mechuyev al.
Yeah, in a chenami, it could be.
Wouldn't have the dinam of tefillas harvest.
Yeah, that would come. Oh, I don't know about that. It's al kiddush yechayiv, not al arvis. Not al arvis. You want to know like the halachas if you start davening ma'ariv and those dinim. No, the chefta ma'ariv is rishus. Al kiddush yechayiv.
You want to say on the parsha?
God in the parsha, give me a chumash.
Did you make a dollar with the nus?
No, you can't make up dollars.
Yes. Part of it is.
I don't need a chumash. I don't need a chumash. I'll tell you Vert. This is for Reb Shlomo. This Vert part is for Reb Shlomo. It says, "Achlayim arishin tashbisu sor mi batechem." Zok the Targum tevatlu. Bittul chametz. So we're mevatel chametz. We're mevatel chametz twice. Once at night, nothing to dika. The Gemara is like haboidik tzor shivatel. Then we're mevatel again during the day, b'teres mini. After bir chametz, we're afraid maybe something was left over, so mevatel chametz again. What's the difference in the nusach between the two bitulim? The first bitul we say at night. Kol chamira v'chamira dika b'shusei dechaziseyu deloi chaziseyu deloi be'arte. I didn't see it and I didn't burn it. Live till v'levi kafredar or levi hefker kafredar. During the day, it's over. Now it's coming chatzos. It's coming nizman bir chametz. So or shashishis. So we say kol chamir dika b'shusei dechaziseyu deloi chazisei. If I saw it, I didn't see it. The bi'arti, the loy bi'arti, I burned it, I didn't burn it. Live to live, kafredar. Because now, there's nothing else you can do, so you mevatel it just in case there's anything left. In Balozhin, by Sreifas Chometz, I heard this from my mechutim, the fall Moshe Gettinger, heard it from his Zayder, Naftali Riv. In Balozhin, 1 year when they were burning Chometz, a Yid came over to the Netziv, and he said, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, what's the pshat? The bi'arte or the loy bi'arte. If I burned it or I didn't burn it, I'm mevatel it. The loy bi'arte fashteich. But what's the bi'arte? If you burned it, so why are you being mevatel it? So the chazisi, the loy chazisi, the bi'arte, the loy bi'arte. So you didn't see it, I understand why you're being mevatel. But if you burned it, so why are you being mevatel the chametz? So the Tziv said, Dosa gevaldige shayla frag mein Edom, der befall. The befall said, going to take a pshat. You have a Gemara Psachim. Sido Mishnah Psachim. Daf Lamed Aleph Lamed Beis. Chametz shenafel olav mapoiles. Mapoiles. Building falls down on chametz, hareu kimavur. You don't have to go and pick up all the pieces of the rubble and be mevayah the chametz. So the Gemara, Amar Rav Chisda v'tzor sheibata b'libo. Even though it's kimavur, you still have to say bittul. What the Gezogt Rebbe Foil, that's the pshat. The bi'arte or the loy bi'arte doesn't mean if I burned it. It means if it has a din of mavur. So chametz shenof lo ma'poilos areu kimavur. So that means that it's mavur, it's bi'arte. But afal pichein Omer Rav Chisda, it's not enough since the chametz is actually there. V'tzorach shivata b'libo is probably a derabbanan. But as Mimeli said, that's a pshat. The bi'art, lo bi'art means if it's mavur, it's not mavur, and you still have to be mevatel it b'libo. Mamash hagoyin is the pshat. But l'maisa, there's a much simpler pshat. The Kashi is assuming a hanocha that the word beer, when we say al beer chametz, it means to burn. And this bechlal nishposhit. The shiboli aleket, there's a long ariches. We say Baruch Ato Hashem, it's one al bir chametz. What does that mean? So the shiboli aleket says that on the pasuk V'anoichi pinisi habayis, in the Targum of Yerushalmi it says Anoichi bi'arti habayis. So the word beer could have two types. The word beer can mean to destroy. Shalim yishalim amavir esabeira. The word beer could mean to take out of my possession. L'moshel, we have beer maisris. What's beer maisris? Beer maisris b'soif shona shlishis, Pesach of shona revius and shvius. Bi'arti ha'kodesh min habayis. So what does that mean? It means I took all the trumas and ma'aser that I haven't eaten ma'aser yet, and I gave it to the kohen and the Levi. I took it out of my house. We have beer shvius. The Rambam says it means to burn. The Yerushalmi says, the Rashi Shita is, it means to take it, put it on the street, and be mafkir it. That's what beer means. So the word beer can mean two things. The word beer can mean to destroy ha'mavir esabeira. It can mean bi'arti ha'kodesh min habayis. The Shiboli Aleket says that the Goyinim hold that al bir chametz means to be mevar min habayis, pinisi min habayis. It means to get the chametz out of your house. Doesn't mean to burn it. That's why the Rosh fragt, why are you making the bracha al bir chametz? You don't burn it until tomorrow. Zog the Rosh, it's the haschola for tomorrow. Shiboli Aleket says, no. The bracha is on b'dikas chametz means to get it out of my house. So memela, that's why you make the bracha al bir chametz. The mesaknei ha-nusach of Kol Chamira, they held that the pshat in beer means to get it out of my house, to like beer maisris. It's male very pashut. The bi'arti, the loy bi'arti means if it's in my house or it's not in my house. If I got it out of my house, didn't get it out of my house. The whole kasha finds nicht on. If bi'arti, the loy bi'arti means to burn, so then it's an eyes in a kasha. But if it means what?
If it's out of your house, it's yours.
No, so if it's in my house, even if it's not in my house, I want to be mevatel, I'm going to be over if it's not in my house.
The ma'aser out of the house.
What?
The ma'aser out of the house is not a bittul.
No, why? Why? First of all, if it's not in my house, the Ramban rather holds that if it's in someone else's house, so then you're not over midaraisa. Midrabanan, it's also. The Rashi holds even in someone else's house, you're over. If it's not in my house, it's in my house, out of my house. In both scenarios, both echatim says I want to be mevatel.